Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Go ahead.
Oh no.
Good morning, Baltimore. This is Barbara Robinson. And if you will, let's reach the one that gives us all the praises and blessings that we need. Oh, Heavenly Father, my God, thank you, dear Jesus, for another day
Thank you.
unseen by man. Bless this program, dear God, and let somebody be blessed from the message that comes from this program. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. 4 o'clock every Monday, the praying man would come around my grandma's house at 2100 Westwood. He lived only like 3 doors down, 3 doors down, Mr. James. And every Monday at 4 o'clock, I was a little boy, about 6, 7 years old. He would come and he would pray. And he would pray. And he would pray.
And he would pray.
I think we got up about 5:30, 6 o'clock. By that time, Grandma had started hooking up them pork chops, gravy, rice, and greens.
And biscuits.
She ain't throw me no. See, she would just give me. It wasn't dinner. It was just some hold you over till you get home stuff. My grandma was real wise. I was in a rush one time to an event. I said, "Grandma, can you press my shirt?" She pressed the front side and the other side and the collar. I said, "Grandma, what about the back?" She said, "You're gonna have your jacket on, aren't you?" Sometimes kids don't realize that your grandparents not only raise your parents, well, they're not only raising you, but they raise your parents, but little kids don't think like that.
Right.
I mean, in retrospect, Granny knew me better than I knew myself. She played the piano too. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to do a recital for Miss Barbara Robinson, Senator Barbara Robinson, because she does not believe that I can play the piano.
You're right. You're going to have to do a recital for me.
Not a problem.
Okay. I'm from Mo. With me, you got a show.
Oh, you from Missouri, huh?
That's right.
Okay. What is going on with the city of Baltimore?
I thought you had an answer for that.
Prayer. Last night, a young
Prayer
man.
and leadership.
Prayer and leadership. A young man came through Winchester Street, and I'm just standing there talking to my neighbor. But this young man was doing about 60. And my dog kind of gave me an indication something was wrong. Listen to your dog. Look to your neighbor and say, "Neighbor, oh neighbor, listen to your dog." My dog must have heard the chase because he was reacting kind of differently. Kind of like, "Let's go." Normally, he just enjoys himself. He said, "Let's go." Next thing I know, about 20 police cars was chasing a stolen car. And the young man was getting around too. They had helicopters. They had cars chasing him. And when you thought they caught him, he went another couple miles. Then I'm thinking about our young men and young women on these corners. I pray that they want something different. And they do. Many of them do. Many of them do not really want to be standing on that corner.
Many of them have said the same thing. We have property downtown on right there at Lawrence and Pennsylvania Avenue. And so many of the young people, they're doing drugs. We have to run them off the steps so many times. And so many of them, black and white, have said the same thing, that they don't want to be there. As a matter of fact, several of them have asked my daughter, where can we get help? What do you say to them? What do you say? So many of them do want help.
I've come to a new level of understanding about the white addicts. But let me tell you, since Freddie Gray, that's a whole new phenomenon. When it was us walking the streets, looking dusty, chasing drugs, we are called dope fiends.
Mm-hmm.
junkies. But when it's white people, oh, it's the opioid epidemic. Senator, I go out in my backyard Sunday morning, and it's a white lady back there with a black man in my alley. I'm supposed to be listening to Sadie on Sunday morning. Sadie, don't you know,
Yeah.
easy like Sunday morning. Sunday morning is supposed to be cool. You ain't supposed to be going out back and catching people doing all kinds of things. But see, since the consent decree of Freddie Gray, the police have just taken a knee because they get in trouble from their perspective. They get in trouble if they get too aggressive. They don't even deal with loitering. Now, on the flip side, what's up with grown people standing on the damn corner all day?
No job.
So the police become babysitters for grown people. You're grown. And I don't mean 30, 40. I mean 50, 60.
You know, when people like that are standing on corners, it means that they have either given up hope or need to have hope instilled in them. You know, people stand on the corner when they don't have anything else to do, nowhere else to go. And when you get into your 50s and 60s and 70s, you've lived a lifetime or half of a lifetime, but there's nowhere else to go. They don't have any motivation. They don't have any will in order to do anything or hope that there is something for them to do.
When the coronavirus first came out, did you see how they were handling it over in Asia? Did you see how those police officers were handling people that didn't want to wear a mask?
Well, that's because that you had your president that people voted for and was directing what happens here in America. You have people here in Baltimore who don't want to wear a mask. So it's not just in Asia.
No, what I'm getting to is the police officers over in Asia, they were smacking people with them billy clubs.
Yeah. Well, they do that here without masks.
Yeah. That's because you're black. I'm talking about people who get popped because they're not wearing a mask. You have fans all over the place. So we brought you back on this show for an encore performance. This is a young man from Sandtown, now in Florida. We use a hip hop approach. Michael's got a lot of answers. Mr. Rico Crawley. You know, we brought you back to the show. Thank you, Rico. Top of the morning, Mike. Because we got our ratings went through the roof the last time you were on. I don't even remember what you were talking about.
Probably talking about life.
You were talking about college and all of them suitcases you had and dropping them at the bottom of the steps in the dorm and other students looking at you and you looked at them and they looked at you and you looked at them and you kept going. Okay, so tell me about my business. We've been on this minority business role, black business role. Is it difficult to get a local, state, or federal contract? Don't you have expertise in that?
Absolutely. When I started in business, my first contract was with the state, was in healthcare, actually. And my first contract was a $2 million contract to provide residential care to people with developmental disabilities. And also I got another contract after that, same one, with the state, another $2 million contract to provide training for people who would be working in my first contract. And then I went after another contract in order to provide transportation for the people who were living in my houses. And then I had another contract. So what I'm saying is that you have grants and you have contracts out there, but you need to know how to write proposals and how to write grants. And I have a whole file cabinet filled of rejections. Then I have another 2.5 file cabinets filled with how to go about and override those objections. Every time I went after a contract, wrote a proposal and wasn't accepted, I always asked for a debriefing, a meeting, a debriefing. And I went back to the same people and said, show me what I did wrong. I don't want to know what I did right. Show me what I did wrong, because I may make mistakes, but I won't make the same ones. So I'd go back again, and I'd get a contract. But there have been times when I've gone after federal contracts, and when this group, one white woman and three white men actually, when I didn't hear from them, and I wanted to know why, and they said I had so many errors. Now I know that was a lie, because I taught English and I'm a writer. So I said, show me where my errors were. They could not. Well, I challenged them, and that's what we need to learn how to do when we are rejected. You go back. You don't give up. You keep going back. I was in business for almost 40 years, and I did extremely, extremely well. Um, but you also, what I found now is that a lot of times when I was having problems to getting state contracts, it was because I was Black, and I know that for a fact, because somebody was in a meeting and said that, using the N words, and said that we were making too much money, and they were talking about three Black women. Well, I went to an elected official to ask for help. I'm still waiting, and that was in the early 90s. So we not only write proposals or grants. We need to have elected officials to come to our aid to actually help us. Larry Young was the only one that stepped up. Larry Young and Pete Rollins were the only two that stepped up to help me when I was trying to start a business, and kept getting kicked in the teeth every time I wanted to do business with state agencies. And that is the reason that I jumped in the race to run for the House of Delegates, because I did not see anybody in Annapolis who looked like me, who was a business owner and could understand my problem, and that would help me. And so when I wanted to run for the House of Delegates, I didn't know anybody that had deep pockets enough to sponsor me as a candidate. And not only that, I was the oldest one in the race.
You had more money than them.
Well, that's when I paid for my own.
Well,
That's when I paid for
something
my
I
own.
will always admire about you, because when you did it yourself, you didn't owe anybody anything.
And the only people I owed anything were my voters. Only people. And when I went to Annapolis, I said, I didn't come here to make friends. I came here to make law in order to help the minority businesses. And if you see now, when I was there, each year, Herman Taylor started it. And then after Herman left, then I took up the baton and started having minority businesses gatherings or meetings or summits, whatever you want to call it, once a year.
Wasn't that scary to the white people?
Yeah, it was scary. It seemed to be scary to some Black folks too.
Oh my God.
That's right. That's
Sound
right.
like Harriet Tubman. She said, I freed 1,000 slaves.
And they didn't know they were free. You couldn't free the mind.
You were going for state contracts. Did you ever get federal contracts?
Absolutely. I got federal contracts. I had federal contracts, employee assistance programs, HICFA.
Healthcare Finance Administration. That's it.
Healthcare Finance Administration. I had the contract with HICFA. I had a contract with SSA in order to do employee assistance programs, and also training and development.
So we have a federal agency out there in Woodlawn, national headquarters for Social Security.
That's right. And that's where my office was. I had an office out there on Security Boulevard. And I had an office at HICFA. Well, I still own my building downtown, but each day as a counselor, EAP counselor, I would go up to HICFA and I would be there for their employees. That was my contract. But you know something? When I first wrote that contract, I didn't realize that I didn't write, and I'm starting out, I didn't realize that I had written a contract without enough money in there to pay me. But I had said the services that I was going to provide, and I didn't put enough money in there to provide those services, but I provided them just the same. And after my contract was over, in 2 years, I worked without me getting paid. And when the contract was over, and I went back to the contract officials, to the at HICFA, and I was writing the proposal again, and I put in more money, and I said, I undercharged myself. And the contract officer said, we knew that, but we wanted to see what you were going to do. And you were a woman of your word. So the next contract that I got from them was much, much more than the initial one, because I said I was going to do what I said I was going to do, and did it as if I was being paid. And then sometimes we have to bite the bullet. Sometimes we have to take one step backwards in order to take two forward. And so many times when we go after certain contracts, and we don't get them initially, we say that, well, look, they're not paying me to do this. But if you can show what you can do, that's the same thing that happened when I was with the district court. When I put in for deputy administrator of the district court, never in the history of the court had there been a Black woman. Now I'm already chief of traffic division. Never there was a Black woman in the history of the court to become deputy administrator. Well, when a white judge went to battle for me, he said, well, this was Chief Judge Murphy. He's gone now. So is Judge Bourgogne. But they said, if you will work for a year and show me what you can do, then we'll talk about this a year from now. And I said, a year from now, you're going to be coming back to me. And I worked in that position for a year without pay to show what I could do. And that's when I got the promotion. Sometimes it's not always upfront. And I understand that we need to get our blessings when they are due, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes you have to wait, but then when you do get them, it's full throttle ahead.
Do you know anything about cryptocurrency?
Cryptocurrency.
Bitcoin? You ever heard of Bitcoin? That's the new money, the new currency.
No.
It's like digital money. Well, long story short, I am proud to announce that this book, you see this book down here scrolling, Defy for the Diaspora, Creating the Foundation to a More Equitable and Sustainable Global Economy Through Decentralized Finance by Kamal Hubbard. This is my first national ad. Just landed it last night. We've been doing business and promoting a lot of Baltimore, but back in December, we launched a national website, BlackUSA.News, after which this morning show is named. And so we're now doing business in California. Isn't that wonderful?
I have a contract. Well, I did a contract in California. We've done business in Africa, Alaska, Texas, Mexico, and so many states, Florida, Georgia, Alabama. I mean, we had so many. We even did workshops in Nassau, Bahamas.
Guess who I talked to last night? He's coming on this show. He opened up a campus in Nassau, Bahamas. You know who I'm talking about.
Charlie Simmons.
Charlie Simmons, Dr. Simmons is coming on
Absolutely.
the show next week. I
I,
adore that man.
I love
He,
him.
he's the
I
kind of
taught
college president that understands our people from the rooter to the tutor.
Charlie and I go so way, way back on corner hanging time back. Merlin Saratoga, before he was Dr. Anybody. Charlie and I used to hang out way, way long time ago. I love him, always have. Um, and when we went to Bahamas. I did class at Sojourner Douglas campus in Nassau. Yeah, I know Charlie. As a matter of fact, his
So
family.
you and him have similar. You know, when I think of you two, it's like no limitations.
Absolutely.
That's a man with no limitations. You're a woman with no limitations. They say the
Absolutely.
only limitations are the ones that we put on ourselves.
That's right. That's right. The only limitations that we have are the ones that are self-imposed. You're absolutely right. You know, I wake up every day with a why not attitude. Why not a why not attitude?
What's
Why
that?
can't I do so and so? Why not do such and such? Why not have this happen? You know,
I had a why not attitude over in Africa. I was
so did
going. I was going to this. I thought I was going to the hotel because where I was at, they only serve vegan food, and I was ready for some chicken or something. I was calling myself going to the hotel, and you know they got roundabouts. There ain't no whole lot of traffic lights. I was at the roundabout, and I got off at the wrong exit on the roundabout. Senator, I went down this very dark road. It's about 10 o'clock. It was dark. I mean, Africa black dark. But I looked to my right and I saw people just living like normal. I looked to the other side, people just like normal with no lights. And I was like scared, like, oh my God, I'm about to get got. It's kind of like going to the projects for the first time, not knowing what you're doing. And people weren't thinking about me at all. I turned around and walked back. But after that, I got my heart back.
You know, when I lived with a family there, the Chintus, the Chintu family, and when they were trying to give me directions as to, well, we're going down here where the robots, and then we're going to turn at the second robot. I'm looking for a robot, and the robots to them was the traffic lights. And when I was in Africa, I went there and trained women to be business owners, how to turn their hobbies into successful, financially successful businesses. And I taught them in a room where there was dirt floor, and we were by candlelight, and the chalk that we used was almost like powder, you know, because when you put it on the board, it would break. And I actually didn't go there the first time to train. I went there to find out what were their needs. And they didn't let me get away with that. They said, you came here to train, and we want you to train. And this was on a Friday. And I said, well, when do we start? They said, Monday morning.
What country?
Lusaka, Zambia.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have a friend there, Jamal. So look, I was watching this documentary last night, and it was almost like I was watching Rosewood. The documentary was on King Leopold of Belgium in the Congo, and all he did to rape that country of well over $2 billion worth of resources. Everything in the world comes out of the Congo. And the story went on to talk about the first president since independence, Patrice Lumumba. But I just became so angry at what Belgium had taken from them. But I was even madder at the black people that just let them come in there and take their stuff. And I'm talking about the dictators. I think it was Sese Mbutu. Mbutu is the one that captured and killed Patrice Lumumba, but it was just ugly. And I watched how they played us against each other. It was like watching what happens here in the United States. It was even worse because it's at home in Africa.
You know,
Rubber, among other things, rubber. They was just, and then they cut people's hands off. That's
yeah.
the famous saying. They cut my hands off in the Congo. Whole tribes of people with one hand.
Mm.
Because if you didn't produce enough rubber or whatever, they would cut your hands off. King Leopold, Belgium. So when something happens tragic to Belgium today, don't look at me. Don't look at me. You know, because we the first one go change our profile picture. Oh, we praying for Belgium. Wrong Negro. Wrong one. Them people need restitution. You know, we need to get in, what's it called, the United Nations and sue all these European powers for all that they have raped out of Africa. But also we need to hold those black leaders accountable who sold out their own people. You remember Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutsis?
Yeah.
Just like here, it's our own people. We got all these blacks in position downtown the city hall. They look down their noses at you poor black people.
You know, that's our own fault. Because we elect people because they're young, or we have good time with them when we go out and have a couple of drinks. We don't seem to elect people who know what the heck they're doing, that have already established a track record. And when we put individuals in there without any experience, you know, all of my books, I said I've written 8 books, but I've written, one of my books is out of print and I rewrote that. So that makes 9 actually that's been published. But all of my books are a journey to where I am now. And it depicts the things that I've done through life. And Barbara Robinson is not unique. There are a number of Barbara Robinsons out there. But individuals that are being elected today, rather than hooking their kite to people like us who've already been in the trenches, who've already made giant steps. I'm not saying that you don't need younger people. I'm saying that you need younger people who know, and who know that, there's a saying that those, he who knows not and knows not that he knows not, he's a fool, shun him. And he who knows but knows not that he knows, he's uneducated, teach him. But he who knows and knows that he knows, he's wise, follow him. So when you have individuals out there who knows that they know, follow them. Those of us who've been in those trenches for years. And if we didn't learn anything, we learned how to survive to be 70 and 80 and 60. So learn and take your place following in our footprint, in our footsteps. That's what bothers me, because the younger people that are getting into position now, not only disregarding what has come before them, but disrespecting people that have come before them. And when you don't know, but individuals out there who do know, then learn from them and go on. Yeah, we need to pass the baton, but you pass the baton to somebody who's going to do something with it. Not show up for photo ops, or not show up and say that I'm doing something meaningless just to get your picture taken.
I want to say something to you. When you get to them pearly gates, God don't care whether or not you are mayor or a bum on the street.
That's right.
Everybody's the same. So a lot of us, Senator, get caught up in that title.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's temporary.
You're absolutely right.
Did you say when you got that contract, them people called you back not because of any title, they called you back because of your character.
Right. You're absolutely right. And for uh and I talk about that in my book, um in this one. I talk about that in this book. And I also talk about corrupt politicians. No, I call them sleazy, really. I call them sleazy politicians that run sleazy campaigns and do sleazy work. And that's my opinion. And I've looked at the sleaziness. You know, when you get into a position that you say that you're going to help individuals, you're supposed to provide services. You're supposed to provide services. And it's not necessarily um, to be in the limelight all the time. You know, I said this to a senator one time when I had put in something and somebody else was taking credit for it. And this senator said, "Aren't you going to say something?" I said, "The job is getting done. It doesn't matter who takes the credit as long as the required or desired results happen." And this senator said, "Oh, no, no, not me, not me. I want my name there. I want to be known. It doesn't matter to me." Because like you said, Donnie, when you get to heaven, God's not going to look at where your name was down there. You know, they're going to look at he's going to look at what you've done.
Did you serve your people?
Did you serve your people as I designed for
people.
you to serve your people? You're absolutely right. And I am so proud, you know,
Let's go into the book a bit. How many chapters in this book?
from 17 through 21, it talks about politics in Baltimore. And
Read some of it. Share some.
I want individuals to do this when it comes to the chapter 16. It talks about how I started in politics. And I want people to read this for themselves. Chapter 17 talks about the muddy road of politics. Chapter 18 talks about complications by design. Chapter 19, politics most foul. Chapter 20, politics without integrity. And I talk about politicians without integrity. Chapter 21, reflections of a smear campaign. And I talk about that as well. You know, as I said, I put up my own money in order to run for a seat in the House of Delegates because individuals came after me when they saw that I was really successful in providing services to people with developmental disabilities. When they find out that I was successful in getting extremely lucrative contracts, not only was I to get contracts, I used a system and went back and I bought 10 homes. And when the white establishment came in and said, "Well, did you buy those houses with state money?" And I said, "Absolutely." And they said, "Well, you can't do that." And I said, "You need to talk to my attorney." And when they went to my attorney said, "I'm sorry, but statute of limitations ran out 2 years ago." And see, they weren't expecting me to have enough sense to do what white individuals in the same industry had been doing for years, because of almost 200 people in that industry, only 5 of us at that time were Black. And they conveniently closed down 2 of the 5 and left 3 of us and tried to get the 3 of us to uh, to merge together.
Do you ever ask yourself what is wrong with these sick people who do these things because of race? I mean, that's some serious sicko. That's like crazy, DNA crazy. What you ever ask yourself where these people, what rock they crawled from under?
You know, when I stop to reflect on why, I take time away from why not.
Okay.
And I take time away from, you cannot define my limitations. And when they put a trap in front of me, I find my way around it. And that's what I've been doing for all of these years.
But
And
don't bother you. Don't. I mean, you ever get the notion just to take a stick and just hit him in the head? Not a brick, not a bat. Just book him.
many times. But then I sit back and I try to find out how to outwit them.
Oh, we're gonna beat them. Because a racist is not the
that's the reason that I love so many times that they try to keep us out of things. You ever look at how every time a Black person go into any sports or anything else, when we really put our mind to it, we outwit them every time. You know, and you
only 13% of the population.
And so many other times they actually tell us about what we do or who we are and how we get out of situations. You know, there are so many situations that Black folks have been in over the years that a white would never have been able to make it. You know.
Oh no, it's mental illness. They go snapping and shooting up. It's mental illness. But what do you think my people are going through? What do you think our people are going through after years and years of deprivation and neglect and racists who pretend to be our friends? I'm talking about them liberal Democrats who swear they're our friends. Look, we got a statewide election coming up, and I'm watching this comptroller's race because it's very interesting to me. But this is what I want them to know, Senator. If you're going to get the Black vote, then you're going to speak to Black people and you're going to speak to our issues. Through that, the Board of Public Works comes contracts. And the comptroller is one of 3 votes on that board. And if they're not speaking on our behalf, they will not get our support. And we will go all over the world telling people not to support them. That I can guarantee you.
You know, we don't even, when I say we, our younger people coming up, I want to go with the pants hanging down. If they actually knew where that came from slavery.
Plantation. A raped Black male got raped by the slave owner or slave master.
That's right.
And the sagging pants let them know, let everybody else know who did it and what.
That's right. That's right.
And then now dudes got colorful drawers on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Colorful drawers.
You know, because not only do they not know where that came from, their parents didn't know to educate them.
What grown man was somebody looking at their butt?
Yeah. Or what grown woman want to be walking around with a man that wants somebody looking at them?
Apparently, a lot of them.
You absolutely
a lot of these women are sicker than the men because they wouldn't tolerate it otherwise. If the woman said, pull your pants up or you're not coming over here, all they got to do is say it one time. But the women want to be thugs too. Senator, you got women on there making profile pictures like this. Who want to date that? Looking all hard.
You know, I used to go into the
when did that become normal?
In women's penitentiary years ago and teach, you know, and so many times I've gone there and there have been women, mothers and daughters sharing the same cell.
Oh my God.
You know, I've gone and taught in prison in Jessup, and there have been fathers and sons in the same penitentiary.
Have you ever had the conversation with what happened? Or does it need explanation? You already know what happened.
I already know what happened, but what bothered me so much is it was always the system. The system did this and the system did that, and instead of, you know, when you look at where I came from, and that's the reason that, and somebody asked about this book. This book is called Through It All. This is the one that talks about sleazy politics and sleazy politicians, and I name them.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And they can't tell me it's not true. They can't tell me it's not true because I lived through this. You know, this is not something I read. I lived through every track that's talked about in this book, and I stand behind it. You know, it. When you look at where people like me have come from, and things that we have done in life, instead of blaming the system, the white man, this is my first book. And I talk about how I got to Baltimore and the things that I had to overcome just to be able to survive. And then when I started in business, I couldn't find anything that would tell me what it was that I needed to know in business. I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur meant. I'm coming from the court system, starting a business. So I started doing research. And that's when I wrote this one. Yes, you can. How to start and operate a business while developing yourself and pursuing your personal goals. And that's what I was doing. I was starting a business, but I was also going after another degree. And then I started the women that I've met along the way. And this one is out of print, and I've written it over again under the title Love's Second Chance. And then the third one, when I started sitting under the teachings of Reverend Bryant and teachings from the pulpit and teachings that I've learned along the way. And then that's when I wrote this one, Someday Is Now, that says, stop talking about what you're going to do tomorrow, or stop talking about what you're going to do someday, because someday is today, because we might not have tomorrow. And that's what 911 showed us, that we might not have tomorrow. And then I realized that all of us need motivating sometime. Even the motivator needs to be motivated. So then that's when I wrote Mind Bungee Jumping. And this contains 54 original poems and 2,000 motivational quotes. And I have them listed under different titles: inspiration, hope, accomplishment, forgiveness.
Let's see accomplishment. Can you share accomplishment?
Spirituality.
Or pick one.
Okay, motivation.
Okay.
This is number 1,201. My quote.
You must have drank a lot of coffee.
Hello. You can be defined as ordinary without leading a common life. Be ordinary, but lead an extraordinary life. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is the extra, EXTRA, in front of ordinary. Give more than you get. And that's by Barbara Robinson.
My daddy said the same thing. You got that from my daddy. But that's what he said. He said, don't wear your welcome out.
That's right.
They say that they sing it in the song, God bless the child that's got his own. You can help yourself, but please don't take too much.
And another one, if at first you don't succeed, try and try again. You are not the only person who has experienced rejection. That's also from Barbara Robinson. And I have some that's in here from Pastor Reed and from different people, but a lot of this, it's wisdom that I've learned along the way. And then after my husband passed, I wrote this, Bend in the Road, Reinventing Yourself After the Death of a Loved One. That was number 6. And I went back and this is And Still I Cry. Now this is this is And Still I Cry, and this is out of print, but I have a lot of these that are left that I can give away. But I went back and rewrote this again, and that's my picture on there when I was a baby and when I graduated from high school. My publisher wanted me to change that. And this is number 8. Number 9 that's coming out talks about that trial when the courts tried to render me bankrupt. when they tried to take away my house. And when a judge told me that, he says, you can't fight us. Now, he's supposed to have been, this was a federal judge. He says, you can't fight us. Your pocket's not deep enough. We may think that you are an Oprah Winfrey, his exact remarks. You may be an Oprah Winfrey or a Martha Stewart, but you can't fight us. This was a white judge at federal court when they asked me to give away, to sign over my building to them, and I refused.
Why they asked you to do that?
Because I was fighting for Black businesses in the healthcare industry, and they tried to close me down. And when they tried to close me down, I fought them. So if they could make an example of me, then they would
deter other people.
Yeah, but when they pushed me, I pushed back. And that's when I decided. Well, I didn't decide. My attorney told me that he says, Barbara, you need to be on the inside. You need to be in Annapolis making laws, helping Black folks.
Do you agree with that logic?
That I needed to be in Annapolis? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because when I got there, there was nobody who looked like me that was in business as long as I have, or the magnitude that I had accomplished. And when I got there, I wanted to, it took me almost 5 years to get a law changed that said that 501c3 nonprofits should not be counted as a MBE. And when because every time the governor talked about the amount of money that he was giving to MBEs, he was putting in 501c3 nonprofits like Kennedy Krieger and Emerge and those other agencies that were doing.
Was that O'Malley?
Yeah, it was O'Malley. Yeah, it was O'Malley.
They were scared of him because a lot of Black people act like they were scared of him. They was calling him the Irish Mafia, said they hit the girl up there, the reporter girl. She said she was in New York City reporting the story, said the car came and hit her. She went through the air like Superman, like, whoa. So they had this fear. These Black people from North Avenue, I've never seen Black people from North Avenue scared of a white boy from Montgomery County. Never in my life.
You know, it's really, to me, it's not so much of
I ain't saying they can't fight down there.
It's not so much of fear as it is of ignorance. It's not so much of fear as it is of ignorance, because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to fight. And that's just what I'm saying when I say that individuals who are going into politics now should learn from those of us who've already been through the trenches. You know, you can't, you don't know how.
Have you found any that don't want to learn?
Yes, I have, because they're so busy being egotistical and sticking out their chest and talking about what I can do. And when they get there, they don't do a that blame thing because they don't know how to do anything. Yeah. Yeah. He who knows not and knows not that he knows not, he's a fool, shining. So you have a whole lot of fools in politics.
No slight, but I watched Leon Pinkett work in this community, work for Baltimore Development Corporation, work for this entity, that entity. But then he got into office, and I really thought he was going to be going somewhere. And then he made a mistake that others have made. He jumped out there on the citywide tip way too soon. And now it's all over. And it was like, what was it for? It was almost, what did you accomplish?
You know, you have individuals who work in the state and work in city government as secretaries or clerks under leadership. And then because they worked as secretaries or clerks, they step out there and think that they know how to lead. Never had an office with a secretary of their own. So they really don't know how to even delegate.
I'm glad you mentioned that. When you first go to Annapolis, is there a orientation? Is there a class that new delegates have to take? And I really have this question for the Baltimore City Council. When a person becomes a city council person, to my knowledge, there is no orientation. There's no class where you can take, these are your 25, 26 different city agencies. These are the people in charge. This is how things happen here. Like no handbook. So as smart as you are, when you get in there, you still got to find out where the bathroom is, literally.
And that's the reason when I went there for the first year, I did absolutely nothing except follow Hattie Harrison and Ruth Kirk around to find out what to do, how to do it, etc., because there is no class that tells you what to do.
But I thought these people are really, really smart. I thought
No.
our elected officials are very, very, I thought they had,
no, they're very, very egotistical.
But there's no handbook. So see, we have limited political capital. It takes us it took you a whole lot more to become an elected official than it does the average white guy.
Absolutely.
Because this is America. But after you get there, you would think that, that there's something logical, educational. I love to learn. But I'm finding that there is nothing. There's no mechanism.
No, there's not. And you know something, when and this goes back to when I was in business. When I say contracts, one of my contracts was to take the city council on a retreat. And that's exactly what we did with Barry Hampton leading it. And in order to do that, he actually had to work to get those who were there to pay attention and take it seriously. Because it was like, you don't need to, I know this. Not only that, and this was an agenda, this was the curriculum that I wrote. And with my trainers, providing conflict resolution to 3,500 police officers. All the police officers were required to go through my training program. We also provided training for the fire department, for the lottery, and for some staff of college presidents. We trained individuals who thought that they were leaders and were not. But then we had individuals. We even trained. We went to Texas in order to train individuals who were working in management positions. And what we found is that when they paid us, when they had to pay themselves, they were more susceptible to what we were saying. But when you have people who getting everything that's being given to them, it's a joke.
They don't realize it because so much is happening. They get caught up. They're not paying attention. They're not seeing them nuggets. They don't see the goal.
Absolutely. When I look at, now I have degrees from 3 different colleges, but when you go back and you look at the 19 certificates and other things that I've had from various training at Management Development Institute, Junction Bridge. Every time there was a training program that I could get into, I did, because it made me better. I might not need it where I am now, but I'm thinking that I may need it someday. And it actually did transactional analysis, communication, and I can just go down the list of the training that I've actually had. A lot of it didn't necessarily need. Like when I was at the University of Baltimore, majoring in COBOL and Fortran and quantitative analysis and calculus, etc., but I never used all of that. But you can't take knowledge away from a person once you have it. So rather than individuals or young people, saying, well, I don't need that, or I don't have time for that, learn it. because you don't know whether you're going to need it when you're 40, 50, 60, 70, or 80. You know, I'm enjoying who I am now because I've set the pace, made the trail where I can afford to sit back and do Barbara Robinson now. I can afford to sit back and do what it is that I want to do now because I've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt to show it. So instead of young people resenting those of us who made a way out of no way, those of us who've come from the outhouse to the courthouse to the boardroom to the state house, how did you get there? Learn how we got there. And then you can do the same thing when those are coming behind you need to learn from you, because you can't teach what you don't know. And you can't lead where you've never been.
I need your website.
BarbaraRobinson.info.
This lady wants you to email her. I think it'd be simpler if she just went to your website.
Or she can send me an email.
Or she wants you to, let me show you this. Ms. Robinson, please email me the list of your books. She done put you to work. My baby don't work like that.
Okay. But you know, you can go on there on Amazon.com.
Okay, so what's the nugget we're taking away today?
The nugget that we've taken away from today is to do your thing, but learn what your thing is. Hit your wagon to, when I say a star, it means somebody who's already been there, done that, and whose footprints that you should be walking in.
But they gotta be willing. They gotta be willing to share, though, right? Or do I start?
You got to be willing to learn. You got to be willing to learn. Because those of us who've already been there, we've learned. You know what? We haven't learned everything that it is, and I don't want to give that impression. No. Because if you're in a group and if you're the smartest one in the group, then you need to get in another group, because that means that there's nothing else in that group that you can learn. I learn every day. I learn from my grandchildren. I learn from my daughters and sons. I learn from people that I meet. I'm always learning. That's why I'm always writing books, because I always have something to say, because each time I meet somebody, I learn something new. So it means I have something new to say. You know, so what I'm also saying is that God put you here on this earth for a reason. Learn what that reason is. And you know something, I keep telling so many people to write your stuff down, because there's somebody that's coming behind you that need to know what it was like in the wherever we are, in the 20s, in the 21s, because when I write, this book talks about what I've done. It talks about racism, sexism, discrimination in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. It talks about how I got over. And when I say through it all, it talks about how God brought me through it all. And I don't make any apologies about what I say in that book. You know, when I first started out, I wasn't going to go as deep as I did. And when I had one of my advisors to look at it and say, if you're going to talk about it, talk about the truth. And if you're going to talk about truth, make it what it is. Because if you've lived that, nobody can take that your life away from you. And that's what I did, full throttle ahead.
Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day week.
Happy Mother's Day to you too.
I ain't nobody's mom. I'm a daddy.
You know what? Mother is a name. We have so many people who act the part of a mother and a father. It's just the love that you give. So happy Love Day to you.
Happy love. I'm not going to win this, Emma.
No.
I'm pretty determined to win, though. I don't like losing.
That's okay, but Donnie, I love you. I love you. Also, in this book, I meant to say I talk about hidden figures because Baltimore has so many Black women in here who have gone through and made so many things. Because, like Doris Brody and I, who integrated the restroom in the court system, and Bonnie McCrae, who put in the first accounting system in Baltimore in the court system. And then when you have people like Gloria Luster, who at City Hall walked Black businesses through how to get contracts with the city. And then you have Hattie Harrison and Ruth Kurt and Lena K. Lee, Sandra Banks, when Sandra Banks, who was the first court clerk. And when they tried to get me to do that, and Sandra and I got together, and I stayed where I was because I was the first Black woman and the first Black to be deputy administrator of the Supreme Bench in the Circuit Court. So Sandra and I met because if I took that position, it meant that I would leave my position open for a white woman that they was grooming to take that. So at first it was called super clerk, as I said.
Can you
And
say hello
Sandra
to these two people? Brenda
I'm
Bailey
sorry.
and Michael Haney, they have followed you this entire show. Brenda Bailey, say hello to her, and Michael Haney. This cat he's
Hello,
an
Michael.
advertiser, so I ain't gonna
Hello,
beat him.
Brenda. Hello, all of you. And thank you for being there. Thank you for listening. And live your life your way. And you start low, aim high, strike fire, then retire.
You never gonna retire.
I'm just about as retired as I ever will be.
I don't believe that.
I've been retired 4 times from
Yeah,
4
that's what
different
I'm saying.
professions.
What was that? That's like Michael Jordan. Come on, stop playing.
And I love this. I love my life now. I love who I am. I love to write. I get a chance to write, and we had planned on going on a motivational speaking tour, and that's what I had done before I became got in politics. But the pandemic stopped us, so I had all of these books that I had already ordered, and I gave them away. I sent some to Tennessee. I sent some to Alabama, some to Georgia, wherever there was a nun, and I sent some to Southern Maryland, to Mitchellville, every place that there was an organization that provided services to women, minority women specifically, but women in particularly. I sent boxes. I even sent some to Africa, to Nigeria. I sent these at my own expense. I didn't ask them to pay for them. I just said, let me know what kind of services you are providing. And what are you doing to help women? And when they said that, and I said, well, how many books can you give out to these women? So I shipped boxes of books that I paid for. I paid for the shipment and I paid for the printing. The only thing I wanted is to know that they were actually being used. God has been good to me.
Could you live in Africa?
Excuse me?
Could you live in Africa?
No. Not.
Why?
Because they told me when I was there that I didn't know my place, and I don't think I ever will know my place. I can't live somewhere where I need to be subservient to anybody. I need to be able. Now I can go there
they got plenty of African warrior chiefs now.
Well, I like America. I will go there and do what I can and stay there for a while because I have a friend in Mauritania, and she has my name on a school that we help her do, put the information together.
You got a school named after you in Africa?
No, not a school. It's a program there she has in the school that she developed in Mauritania.
Wow.
I
think they should have the Donnie Glover School of Journalism.
I'm sorry, but also, this is once a month. It's Christian Widowers Empowered Initiative, Nigeria, and this comes on the last Thursday of every month at 2 p.m. uh, and it's my show. Someone in Nigeria asked me to do this from Maryland, from USA actually, and I didn't have time to do it every week, so I said I'd try it once a month and see if I have the time. If we have the time, then we can do it more than once a month. But we had the first one the last Wednesday of the last month, and it went fantastic. You know, and we talk about relationships, self-development, identity, potential, fulfillment of purpose, being authentic. And then I have my podcast that comes on every Thursday at 6 p.m. and it's called Straight Talk with Barbara Robinson.
How can we find it? On your Facebook page?
It's on Facebook. Yeah. And we have a lot of followers and it's growing each week. You know my engineer, Jason.
Jason Rodriguez?
Absolutely.
Yes, we know Jason.
Yeah. That's my engineer.
Praise God.
Yeah. So we're doing we're going to do training programs actually. I was on WEAA for 12 years and it was called the Business Reach Out Forum. And on some of the shows that I did, I went on and did on-air seminars. And the District of Columbia, the University District of Columbia, videotaped me doing some excerpts from this book. And they used some of that in order to teach students in their business courses in the University District of Columbia.
So we got to get you to teach a course on our show.
Sounds good to me. We're working on now putting something together to leadership development. I would love
the idea of the retreat for the elected officials. See, I was there the idea, take all the Black elected officials on a retreat and just drop them in the middle of the Congo.
Yeah.
With a knife.
Yeah. And then you would have a whole lot of bodies coming out there because they wouldn't know how to fight their way out of a paper bag because they've already been as clerks, as I said, but not in leadership positions. Some of them didn't even know how to run an office because they've never been in charge of running an office. They've been in charge of working under somebody else's leadership.
Give me 3 suggestions for anybody, including me, running an office.
First, get to know the area that you're going to represent. What are their needs? And that's going and talking to community people, neighborhood leaders, because the people who are closer to the ground are the ones that understand what the needs are. That's number one. The second one is learn how to get along with other individuals in Annapolis, because it doesn't matter if you put in a bill, you're going to have to get the majority of the people in order to vote for you. So vote for your bill. So get to learning how to let them know the importance of it is to your neighborhood. I can't tell you how often I had to fight somebody about the liquor laws in Park Heights. And this was a white guy that's in Anne Arundel County who had a bar. And, I had to convince him the necessity of that bill. And then also stop dealing with self and started dealing with people. It's not about me, it's about us. And when you start worrying about what is it that we need to do, to know how to work as a team.
Okay, I got one more question before we end this. And what do we need to be looking at in the next people claiming to want to represent us? And there's an election, June 2022. Governor, comptroller, what else? I've gone blank. Governor, comptroller, attorney general. But I don't know that Frost is giving it up. But anybody running for governor, what do we, Black people, need to think about before we give them our vote?
What have they done? You know, when
The whole field.
when I was running for the House of Delegates for the first time, I'm sitting on a panel, and all of us who were running for the delegate seat in the 40th legislative district were on this panel. At the end of this panel, at the end of this table, and Frank Conaway Sr. was the one that was, there at the time. And he kept saying, well, who is this white man on the end? Who is this white man sitting down there? I said, I don't know. I thought you knew. And this was a white man sitting on the end of all of us, everybody up there Black, except this one guy. And he's sitting there with his shirt unbuttoned because it was hot as the devil in that place. The fans were broken. He had his sleeves rolled up and he was sweating just like the rest of us. And he stood up to talk. And he said, I've been in business like so-and-so. And it was Larry Hogan. And when he stood up and started talking, and I stood back and I listened to him. And when he got ready, I said, I want to talk to this man when we get off of this panel. And when I went to talk to him, he was already sitting in the corner with a Black woman. And this was an older woman. And he sat there and he talked to her for so long. I still then waited, but then somebody else wanted to talk. So this Black woman, she says, I live in such and such a neighborhood, and I've been living in there for almost 50 years, and I'm going to vote for him. And I said, why? She said, because he listened. He might not do anything, but he's the first one that sat down and listened to what I had to say. So this is what I'm saying. Listen, Peter Franchot and I walked through the markets downtown in Pigtown. And then we also walked through Charles Street. We walked through Mondawmin. Now, you might say he won't do anything, but he listened. And there has not been a time yet when I've called Peter Franchot and I said, I want to talk to you about so-and-so and so. He has always made time to sit down and listen. Okay. And that's my point, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. You better pull that checkbook out and stop playing. My name's Donnie Glover. We've been talking with the one and only Barbara Robinson, Senator for Life. How you doing? We appreciate you. People can go to this website, barbararobinson.info, and get one of her 9. She says 9. It seems like more like 99. She's got a book every day. Okay, there you go.
And more coming. I will be writing as long as I'm living, because as long as I'm living, I'm learning. And as long as I'm learning, I got something to say.
Good deal. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a real treat. Catch you next time. Baltimore, we'll be back 7 p.m. tonight. Thank you for joining us on BlackUSA.News. We love you, Barbara Robinson.
I love you, Donnie Glover.
Leave me alone. Stop threatening me. I ain't scared of her.